The movie opens in outer space on a distant planet called Turo. There, an emergency meeting of the Grand Council of the Galaxies is taking place. Something has gone terribly wrong inside one of the research labs. A scientist named Jumba has created a new creature without permission. The council members are outraged, calling his experiment dangerous and reckless. But Jumba defends himself with pride. He insists that he's a genius, and what he made is not a mistake. It's a masterpiece. He calls it Experiment 626. The creature's name is Stitch. Jumba explains that Stitch is nearly indestructible. No weapon can destroy him. He's also incredibly intelligent, able to outthink 100 computers at once. Still, the council remains convinced that Stitch is a threat. But before passing judgment, the Grand Councilwoman offers him a chance to prove himself. If he's truly as smart as Jumba claims, maybe he can show he's capable of good. But Stitch responds with rudeness, mocking and insulting the council members one by one. The room grows tense. Everyone is offended. At that moment, the councilwoman declares that Stitch has chosen his own fate. She orders him banished to the farthest corner of the galaxy, and she shuts down Jumba's laboratory for good. And after the council meeting ends, Stitch is captured. They take his genetic fingerprint right before sending him into exile. But Stitch causes chaos in the lab. He breaks free, steals a spaceship, and blasts off into space. The Grand Councilwoman gives the order, "Chase him, bring him back." The pursuit begins, but Stitch escapes. Now the councilwoman decides to track his ship to see where he's headed. The readings show one destination, planet Earth. So she turns to Jumba. "Go to Earth, capture Stitch yourself." Jumba agrees, but only on one condition. "Spare my lab, don't destroy it." The councilwoman accepts. She has no other choice. At that moment, another scientist steps forward. His name is Pleakley. He insists, "I'm an expert on Earth's creatures. I must go with Jumba to help." The councilwoman nods, but warns him, "Protect Earth. No harm must come to that planet." Excited, Pleakley hugs Jumba with joy. Jumba, however, looks annoyed. He doesn't want a partner, but he cannot argue against the councilwoman's orders. Now, we travel to Earth. On the island of Hawaii, we meet a little girl named Lilo. She loves animals and birds more than anything. We see her feeding fish in the ocean. Then, she opens the chicken coop to set them free. And after her little adventures, Lilo runs as fast as she can. She's late for her hula dance class. Meanwhile, at the hula class, things aren't easy for Lilo. As soon as she arrives, the other girls start making fun of her because she's poor. Still, Lilo tries to get close to them. She shows them a bracelet she made from seashells, calling it a friendship bracelet. But one of the girls laughs and says it looks like garbage, not like the pretty bracelets they have. She even mocks Lilo, telling her she has no friends, so she doesn't deserve to call it a friendship bracelet at all. Lilo feels hurt, but she stays quiet. She doesn't answer back. Instead, she gets ready to join the performance, where all the families are watching. But when Lilo looks around, she realizes her sister Nani hasn't arrived yet. Even as the dance begins, she keeps glancing at the empty seat, wishing her sister would come. Then suddenly, one of the girls shoves her hard. Lilo falls to the ground. Frustrated and unable to hold it in anymore, she pushes the girl back, sending her tumbling off the stage. What Lilo doesn't know is that Nani had actually been on her way. Her car broke down, and she was stuck trying to fix it. By the time she finally reaches the school, the performance has already ended, cut short because of Lilo's fight. Back home, Lilo sits alone in her room, listening to music. When Nani arrives, she knocks on the door, but Lilo refuses to let her in. She tells her to read the paper she slipped under the door. Nani picks it up. It says, "Leave the house." Shaken, Nani throws it aside and begs Lilo to open the door. She reminds her that the social worker is on his way, but Lilo won't listen. She refuses to open the door, and at that moment, the social worker arrives. Her name is Keiko, and she's come to check on their situation, to see how they're living. Nani greets her politely and invites her in. Together, they head toward the back door of the house. But to Nani's surprise, that door is locked too. Left with no choice, she breaks it open. Trying to cover up, Nani explains that Lilo gets scared when she's alone. That's why she locks the doors from the inside. Once they step in, Keiko quickly notices the state of the house. It's messy, untidy. She turns to Nani and reminds her why she's there. Her job is to make sure Lilo has a safe, stable home. And clearly, that's not what she's seeing right now. Still, Keiko's voice softens. She tells Nani she understands how hard it's been since they lost their parents. But Nani has to rise to the responsibility if she doesn't want to lose custody of her sister. So Keiko gives her 1 week. In that time, the house must be clean, the fridge full of food, and both Nani and Lilo need to have proper health insurance. She ends by saying that if Nani can do all of this, then she'll have a real chance to keep custody of Lilo. After Keiko leaves, Nani steps outside, feeling discouraged. That's when their neighbor Jojo appears. When she hears what happened, she comforts Nani and reassures her. Jojo encourages her, reminding her that she's strong and she can take care of her sister. Just then, Jojo's son David arrives. It's clear he likes Nani. He even invites her to go surfing with him, but Nani turns him down politely, explaining she's too busy. Then, at night, Nani sits quietly with Lilo. Lilo opens up about the girl who hurt her, and with sadness in her voice, she asks Nani if she's a bad kid. Gently, Nani reassures her. She tells Lilo she's not bad at all. She's just going through a hard time, especially after losing their mom and dad. Nani promises that no matter what happens, she'll always be by her side. Lilo is touched. She tells Nani that she's the one who filled the emptiness their parents left behind. Meanwhile, out in space, Stitch is still on his way to Earth. He sits calmly in the ship, until suddenly, alarms begin to blare. A failure in the navigation system sends the sirens screaming. Annoyed by the noise, Stitch smashes the control panel, breaking it completely. The ship spins out of control, racing toward Earth at incredible speed. At that same moment, Lilo spots a shining star moving across the night sky. Excited, she pushes Nani out of her room so she can make a wish in secret. Closing her eyes, Lilo wishes for a real friend, someone who won't leave her and who won't make fun of her. Just then, Stitch's ship crashes violently into Earth. Yet somehow, he crawls out unharmed. He cheers for his escape, but suddenly, the collar around his neck shocks him. We realize it's Jumba, fiddling with the controls, trying to figure out how the device works. Pleakley urges him to stop, reminding him that the collar helps them track Stitch's location. Back on Earth, Stitch struggles with the collar until he finally rips it off his neck. And after that, Stitch notices a wedding nearby. What really grabs his attention is the wedding cake. Tall, beautiful, and impossible to ignore. The moment people see him, panic spreads everywhere. Guests scream, scatter in all directions, and some even try to attack him. But Stitch moves with incredible speed, dodging every strike with ease. Meanwhile, photographers capture the chaos, snapping pictures of everything as Stitch races straight toward the cake. He grabs a huge piece for himself, then runs out into the street. Suddenly, a tour bus slams into him, knocking him unconscious. At that same time, Pleakley and Jumba start arguing. They've just lost Stitch's tracking signal, and their fight causes them to lose control of their ship. But after some struggle, they manage to stabilize it and land safely on Earth. From there, they decide to trace the trail of destruction Stitch left behind, hoping it will lead them to his exact location. The next day, they disguise themselves as humans and check into a hotel. Later, they head out to continue their search. Inside the elevator, they spot a news broadcast on the screen. The reporter warns the public about a strange creature that appeared the night before. She adds that the government has already captured it and locked it in an animal shelter. Meanwhile, Lilo is walking with Jojo. Lilo tells her she wants to visit the shelter, and Jojo agrees, but gives her a can of pepper spray for protection, just in case anyone bothers her. Happy and grateful, Lilo thanks her, then rushes off straight to the shelter. And inside the shelter, Stitch slowly wakes up. He finds himself locked inside a cage, surrounded by rows of barking dogs. He tries to communicate with them, but they don't understand him. Frustrated, Stitch loses his temper, smashes the cage, and escapes. Right outside, he spots a small cake and runs to eat it. But it's a trap, carefully set by Pleakley and Jumba to capture him. They fire tranquilizer darts, yet Stitch dodges every single one with ease, then slips back into the shelter to hide. At that moment, he notices Lilo standing near the dogs. What catches his eye is a poster promoting pet adoption, with a picture of a young girl holding a little puppy. Using his sharp mind, Stitch quickly changes his appearance to look more like a dog. Then, he walks out in front of Lilo, trying to win her sympathy so she'll adopt him. And it works. Lilo is instantly charmed by his unusual look and chooses him to be her new friend. As they leave the shelter together, Jumba prepares to shoot another dart. But Pleakley jumps in front of him, afraid the dart might hit Lilo by mistake. Later, back at home, Nani is upset when she sees Stitch. She doesn't like the idea of keeping him. She's sure he'll cause nothing but chaos in the house. But Jojo talks to her gently and manages to change her mind. So Nani turns to Lilo and makes it clear Stitch will be her responsibility alone, and she'll have to take care of his behavior. Meanwhile, somewhere else, we meet Cobra, a government agent assigned to investigate the crash of Stitch's spaceship. Cobra suspects that some kind of creature was inside that ship, and he's determined to find it. Just then, a member of his team brings him a phone with a photo on the screen. A photo of Stitch standing right next to Lilo. Meanwhile, Lilo and Stitch are sitting together, enjoying some ice cream. That's when a group of girls from Lilo's class shows up, and, as usual, they start teasing her. The moment Stitch sees this, he gets furious. He spits at one of the girls, knocking her off the little car she was playing with. Then he grabs Lilo, jumps into the car, and races off at full speed. He takes her on a wild ride across the island until they reach the edge of a cliff. After that, Lilo brings Stitch down to the beach. But Stitch is scared of the water. Lilo tries to calm him, playing with him along the shore, and the two share a beautiful moment together. Later, Nani picks them up in her car to head back home. But on the way, Stitch keeps bothering her so much that she can't focus on the road. She almost crashes into Jumba, who's dragging Pleakley, still unconscious from earlier. Jumba spots Stitch, but pretends not to recognize him. Quietly, he slips a tracking device into Nani's car without anyone noticing. Back in the car, Nani realizes she's late for work. She doesn't have time to drop off Lilo and Stitch at home, so she takes them along with her. That's when David shows up and talks with Lilo. He tells her he's noticed how stressed Nani has been lately. Lilo knows that David likes Nani and has been trying to get closer to her, but he doesn't know how. So Lilo encourages him, saying that Nani is nervous because she's actually thinking about him. But in that moment, Lilo suddenly realizes something. Stitch has disappeared. So she runs off, searching for him. And it soon becomes clear that Stitch is getting restless. He can't sit still for long, so he starts making trouble in his usual mischievous way. Lilo tries to stop him, but she just can't. Luckily, no one notices the chaos he's causing. That night, David performs a fire dance for the tourists. Stitch is amazed and decides to copy him. He grabs 2 flaming sticks and starts imitating David. But one of the sticks slips from his hand, and suddenly a huge fire breaks out. Panic spreads everywhere as people rush to put out the flames. Because of the disaster, Nani loses her job. She takes Lilo and Stitch home, crushed and discouraged. She's so upset that she refuses to talk to Lilo, afraid she might say something that hurts her. Meanwhile, Lilo tries to hide Stitch in the bathroom to protect him. But he refuses and breaks free. He runs all over the house, making an even bigger mess. At that point, Nani has had enough. She decides to take Stitch back to the shelter. Lilo pleads with her, insisting that Stitch is now part of their family and they can't abandon him. But Nani argues that she can't handle this chaos anymore. Worse, she might even lose custody of Lilo because of Stitch's behavior. Outside, Cobra is sitting in his car, listening in on their conversation. He quickly contacts one of his agents and asks him to set up a meeting with the social worker. Inside the house, Lilo sits with Stitch in her room. She tries to explain what family really means. But Stitch doesn't understand. And that's when Lilo realizes something important. Stitch doesn't really have a family at all. So she opens her photo album and shows him pictures of her own. She talks about her sister Nanny and how she used to be one of the best surfers on the island. Nanny even turned down a free scholarship just so she could stay with Lilo and take care of her. After that, Lilo begins teaching Stitch how to dance the way she does. For the first time, she feels a deep bond forming between them. She knows she could never imagine life without him. The next morning, Nani is in a rush to get to a job interview at a restaurant. She gets Lilo and Stitch ready to go with her because she doesn't dare leave them home alone. But on their way out, they run into Kiko, and with her is Cobra, disguised as the new social services director. Kiko pulls Nani aside to talk about what happened at work the night before. She warns her that if things don't improve soon, she could lose custody of Lilo. Meanwhile, Lilo notices a tattoo on Cobra's finger. She bluntly tells him that being a social services director doesn't really fit him. Cobra is surprised by her sharp observation, but he doesn't respond. Instead, he keeps asking her questions about Stitch. Without anyone noticing, he secretly takes a strand of Stitch's hair to run a test. Moments later, Nani gathers Lilo and Stitch, and they leave together. And then Gantu and Jumba appear, following closely behind. When Nani arrives at the restaurant, she leaves Lilo and Stitch outside and goes in to meet the owner. Lilo seizes the chance to teach Stitch some lessons on how to stay calm and out of trouble. But despite her best efforts, Stitch creates chaos anyway. The owner sees the mess and refuses to hire Nani. Disappointed, Nani heads home, frustrated that she still can't find a job. But Stitch surprises her with a flyer he found, an opening for a surf instructor. Excited, Nani applies and gets accepted. The next day, while she's out surfing, Stitch watches her in awe. Then, when he sees a dog riding the waves, he begs Lilo to let him try. Overcoming his fear of water, Stitch dives in and has the time of his life. But suddenly, Gantu and Jumba show up again and fire tranquilizer darts at him. Luckily, they only hit his flotation vest. Stitch quickly fights back, knocking them into the ocean. But in the struggle, Nani loses her balance and they all fall into the water. Lilo and Stitch nearly drown, but Nani and David manage to save them just in time. From a distance, Cobra watches everything unfold. He reports back to the authorities that alien creatures have landed on Earth. And at the same time, David and Nani take Lilo to the hospital to make sure she's okay. The doctor reassures Nani that Lilo will recover soon and be discharged, but she asks for Lilo's health insurance. Nani becomes anxious because Lilo doesn't have any. At that moment, Kiko shows up and tells Nani that the state could cover all the medical costs, but only if she gives up custody of Lilo. Nani can hardly believe it, but sadly, she has no real choice. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Pleakley and Jumba are together when the Grand Councilwoman calls Pleakley. She's furious that humans have now discovered their presence on Earth. And she knows Jumba is to blame for breaking the rules and revealing himself in public. She orders Pleakley to arrest him and warns that troops are already on their way to take Jumba back to their planet. But after the call, Jumba tricks Pleakley, locks him in the storage room, and insists he'll finish the mission his own way. That night, Nani sits with Lilo and gently tries to explain, without saying it directly, that they might have to be apart for a while. Nani is heartbroken as she speaks, and Lilo already understands she's being sent to a state care center. She tells her sister she accepts the situation, but asks her to come visit whenever she can. Stitch overhears this conversation and feels it's all his fault. Overcome with guilt, he decides to leave them behind. Sad and broken, he walks away from the house and returns to the animal shelter, climbing back into his cage. And the next day, Kiko arrives with Cobra to take Lilo away. But when they walk into her room, she isn't there. At that moment, Lilo is already out searching for Stitch. She finds him at the shelter, sitting sadly in his cage. Stitch tells her he feels guilty because he's the reason she's being separated from her sister. He insists he's just a monster who doesn't belong in a family. But Lilo refuses to believe that. She tells him it's not his fault, but he's a pet who sometimes makes mistakes. But with time, he'll learn how to change for the better. She reminds him he's part of her family now, and she'll never leave him. Suddenly, a time portal opens right in front of them. Jumba steps out, clearly determined to capture Stitch. But Stitch reacts quickly. He snatches Jumba's weapon, traps him inside the dimensional snare, and escapes with Lilo. They rush back to the house, only to find it empty. Kiko, Nani, and Cobra are all out searching for them on the island. Meanwhile, Jumba manages to break free from the trap and returns to his true form. He heads straight for the house, where Lilo and Stitch hide as soon as they see him coming. But Jumba smashes through the entire place, leaving them with nowhere to run. Lilo gets upset. This is her home, filled with so many memories. She stands in front of Jumba and bravely decides to face him. That's when Stitch jumps in to protect her, throwing himself into a fierce battle with Jumba. At that very moment, Pleakley shows up to help them, but the second Lilo sees him, she doesn't give him a chance to explain. She sprays him right in the face with pepper spray. And then, Lilo notices that Jumba is just about to capture Stitch. Without thinking twice, she grabs a pan and hits him on the head. That gives Stitch the chance to snatch the weapon from beside him and point it back at Jumba. But instead of fighting, Jumba tries to break him down with words. He tells Stitch that this family has fallen apart because of him, that the only reason he chose Lilo at the shelter was to use her as a way to escape danger. And if Stitch truly loves her, he should leave her life, because he'll never be able to stop himself from causing trouble. And in the end, he'll ruin her future. Sadly, Jumba's plan works. Stitch is shaken by his words, and with a heavy heart, he gives up and lets himself be captured. Not long after, Nani, David, Jojo, and Cobra return to the house. But when they see it completely destroyed, they panic. They rush around, calling out for Lilo, but she's nowhere to be found. And their fear only grows when Pleakley appears before them in his real form. That's when Cobra steps forward and finally reveals the truth. He works for the Galactic Federation. He places Pleakley under arrest, but before being taken away, Pleakley warns them that Stitch is in danger. He explains that he and Jumba were sent to Earth to capture Stitch. But after watching his behavior closely, they discovered he had changed. He wasn't the same destructive creature he once was. Pleakley tells them that Jumba doesn't like this change. He intends to alter Stitch's genes and turn him back into a savage monster. And even worse, Jumba has already kidnapped Lilo. Hearing this, Cobra decides to take Pleakley for questioning. But Nani, David, and Jojo beg him not to. They insist they must focus on saving Lilo before it's too late. Finally, Cobra agrees. Together, they head toward Jumba's ship, where Stitch is being held prisoner inside. And it's there they realize Jumba's true plan. He's preparing to transform Stitch into a wild, uncontrollable creature. And at that moment, something surprising happens. Lilo manages to sneak onto the ship without Jumba noticing. The instant Stitch sees her, his heart lights up with joy. She quickly unlocks the room where he's trapped, and together they fight back, working side by side until they manage to throw Jumba out of the ship. But then, things spiral out of control. They lose command of the vessel, and it starts plunging toward the ocean. They have no choice but to escape before it crashes. Lilo hesitates, too scared to jump, until Stitch reaches out his hand to her. She takes it, and the two leap together. The strong winds pull a photograph out of Lilo's pocket, the precious picture of her with her family. Stitch races after it and catches it just in time before it vanishes into the sky. At that exact moment, the ship smashes into the sea and is torn apart, leaving only debris floating on the surface. Stitch breaks through the water, desperately searching for Lilo. But she's nowhere to be seen. Fearing the worst, he dives beneath the waves, and his heart stops when he finds her trapped under a heavy piece of wreckage. With all his strength, Stitch lifts it away and frees her. Lilo bursts up to the surface, gasping for air, then dives back down to pull Stitch up with her. But his body is far too heavy, and she can't get him out. Just then, Nani and the others arrive. They drag Lilo out of the water and rush her back toward the shore. But Lilo refuses to leave Stitch behind. She cries and begs them to save him before it's too late. So Nani dives back down. She swims to Stitch, trying with all her might to bring him up. But she quickly realizes it's impossible. He's just too heavy. So instead, she throws him over her shoulder and kicks as fast as she can under the water, racing toward the beach with every ounce of strength she has. And in that moment, Stitch doesn't move at all. He doesn't respond, and everyone around him is struck with fear. Desperate, David grabs the defibrillator, hoping the shock will restart Stitch's heart and bring him back. But the charge isn't strong enough. So they make a quick decision, using the battery from a car to deliver a stronger surge of electricity. Still, Stitch lies motionless. Lilo breaks down in tears, heartbroken at the thought of losing him. And then, suddenly, Stitch stirs. His eyes open, and he slowly regains consciousness. Overcome with relief, Lilo runs to him, hugging him tightly as tears stream down her face. Stitch begins to cough until finally he spits out something small, the photograph of Lilo with her family. Lilo takes it gently from his hands, thanking him for protecting it, her voice filled with gratitude. And just then, the sky lights up. A spaceship descends before them, and out steps the Grand Councilwoman herself. She orders her soldiers to capture Stitch, then turns to Cobra, apologizing for the chaos that has unfolded. She also informs them that Jumba has been caught and will face a lifetime in prison. At that moment, Stitch makes a heartfelt request. He asks the Grand Councilwoman for a chance to say goodbye to his family before he leaves. She's surprised. To her, it seems impossible that a creature like Stitch could ever live peacefully with humans. But Stitch tells her it's true. He has found a family that cares for him. A family that gives him a home. Moved by his words, the Grand Councilwoman agrees. Stitch can stay on Earth, but only under one condition. Someone must continue to watch over him, to make sure he never becomes a danger to the planet. And in that moment, Pleakley offers to stay with Stitch. At first, the Grand Councilwoman hesitates, afraid humans might discover the truth. But then Cobra steps in, promising he'll keep it hidden from his superiors. So she finally agrees and makes her final judgment. Stitch is exiled to Earth forever. She leaves, reassured that the planet is safe. Later, Kiko visits Nani again. But this time, she brings good news. She tells her that Jojo has decided to adopt Lilo, so she'll stay close to Nani and never be taken away. Nani promises Lilo she'll work harder to fix the house and give her the life she deserves. But Lilo shakes her head. She doesn't want Nani to give up on her dreams. She asks her to finish her studies first and reminds her that afterward, she'll find a better job and earn more. Nani is moved to tears. She hugs Lilo tight, and soon everyone joins in. Sometime later, we see Lilo in Jojo's home. Stitch is right there with her. And then, Stitch reveals something surprising. He's still kept Jumba's weapon. With it, he opens a time portal, bringing Nani back for a visit. Together, they spend the whole night playing and laughing, side by side. And with that, our story comes to an end.